put insurance data on a blockchain. Blockchains obviously work well where we have untrusted networks of many agents. And if you think about insurance, in some states in the U.S., only 5 things are allowed to underwrite insurance: age, gender, where you domicile the car, how many miles you drive it, and I think the make of the car. So 4 of the 5 of those, right, you can lie about, making blockchains and more trusted sources of information very useful. With that, the next 2 presentations are from MOBI. The first one on the next working groups, our own Dave Luce will be talking about the next working groups. As you know, we're member funded and, more importantly, member driven. So the projects we do are those that our members tell us they're interested in, and more importantly, what they're willing to commit resources to do. Thanks. Dave?
Thanks, Chris. So I actually want to spend a little bit of time talking about how we move forward, not just giving kind of pure status on the new working groups. So does this work? It does. Maybe just a show of hands. Who's here? See if anybody's listening. There's a few that aren't. I don't know. Everybody's here. Thank God. Some of you are here probably for intellectual reasons, to kind of learn from folks like David. What an incredible presentation from David, or really understand what your potential customers are doing with Nick and so forth. Some of you are here for pure economic reasons, but I hope we're all here to kind of achieve MOBI's purpose here, right? We're here to improve people's lives in mobility. Mobility is such an important part of the success of individuals, both here in the US and in developed countries and areas like Europe, but in developing nations and things. Having access to mobility in a safe way is really what MOBI's all about, and reducing congestion and pollution. So I just want to, we haven't presented this slide so far in the meeting, but I just want to ground everybody in our whole purpose for MOBI is to achieve these goals. So these working groups we're creating and these committees that we're creating ultimately should facilitate that. So who's here to improve people's lives in mobility? I hope it's everybody again. And I just want to keep grounding everybody in this thought. The other thing that's important, we all know blockchain, or the statement, and I think it's attributed to Brian, but I heard somebody actually attribute it to somebody else, so I hope that's accurate. But blockchain is a team sport. Blockchain requires a minimum viable ecosystem, as we all know, and it requires kind of participation. So I want to encourage you guys all to participate where you can add value in different stages in the development of our standards and our specifications. So let's talk about participation here for a moment. Some of you guys are partners in our definition, meaning you're adding transactions to the ecosystem. Some of you guys are sponsors in that you're bringing technology to bear, or you're providing consulting services. And some of you are affiliates, like academic institutions. All of you have a place to play, a role to play in these working groups and the committees that we've created. So I'll talk about when you participate a little bit in this as we go through. But I just want you to know that as these specifications kind of mature and go through their life cycle, there are places where the partners play a leading role. And the partners, frankly, the chairs will play a leading role throughout. But there's more of an emphasis on what the partners do in defining the need. So what you heard from Jerome or from Alan is really what we need. And then these RFI processes that we're going through and what we're going to be doing to incubate the standards are really how are we going to do it. And we're going to need more partner support in those areas. So if you don't feel like you've been fully engaged in the first stage of these things, hopefully you will be engaged in the next stage. Just briefly, the way in which we create working groups, and thank you, Chris. I don't know if he left, but thank you for we are partner driven and partner funded. So if you haven't paid your dues yet, please help us with that. But the way things work is generally speaking, we have somebody or some buddies say, we need a working group in some topic area, some area of importance. And usually you get a little bit of a groundswell of a few people who say, yeah, we really want to work in this thing, whatever that might be. And then we go through a nomination process, which we're maturing. We're using SurveyMonkey to go get people's opinions on this and so forth. Really? 3 minutes left? That's all I have. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so we go through a nomination process. We select the core team, and we develop a charter, and we launch the UBI thing. This is our development life cycle. We've talked about initiating standard or doing this initiation phase, and then incubating it, and then we still have some things to go through with pilots and trials and adoption, and then in standardizing the specification, and ultimately use and improve. And this is really just driving open innovation in an industry that doesn't really innovate openly very often. But we've created this model to kind of facilitate that. These are the working groups. You've heard about vehicle identity and history, usage-based insurance. We have two that we have that groundswell of support. Enough people we think have said they want to work on supply chain and autonomous vehicles to voluntarily staff a working group. However, in our surveys so far, we've only gotten one partner in each of these areas to stand up and say, I'll chair it. And the chair process is a pretty good commitment. I think Jerome will tell you, or you're kind of coordinating meetings, you're in the middle of a lot of thought. You're probably committing a third of an FTE of your time and getting your business to commit to that. So it's a pretty significant commitment. So we're close on supply chain and autonomous vehicle data. Like I say, I think we have one partner that has agreed to chair them. So if you're in this room, where's Denzo? and you want to also be a chair like in the supply chain space, we need it. So please do that. We as a group, as the board decided 2 weeks ago or so when we reviewed who's nominated themselves to chair, we made the decision that we will, in these working groups, will only accept partners to be the chairs. We really want to keep this kind of pure, not too biased by any particular technical implementation. But so we basically made that decision, and so we need to re-communicate and kind of make a call for people to step up. We have 4 more working groups that are on the horizon. Chris is engaged with a number of fellows from different universities that are very competent in certain areas like the EV grid. We have blockchain at Berkeley as a fellow to help do this. So if you do sign up for this, and Chris, who's the person for supply chain? Do you recall?
Pranay Shetty, who's a second-year MBA at Columbia.
Okay, so Pranay will help. So you'll have, if you guys do step up to chair, you'll have some support. You'll have some staff, some research assistant type work or resources. Anyway, so these 4, we're going to be sending out nominations in the next probably week or 2, looking for chairs. We also have our committees. We've talked about, these are more horizontal things, like we have a talk on intellectual property. We have a group that's doing tools and methods. Volkswagen is the chair for that, and I'm the vice chair. And we have Accenture doing a whole lot of work in that area. So when we talked about, hey, we need to learn from what VID and apply it over here, they're actually documenting and defining the specifics on how you do this delivery. So we're getting good artifacts and templates and processes defined from Accenture. So many thanks to them. Chris is working on the business and economics model, and we have a new one coming up called the Social Benefits Committee. And what this is we think this is going to help us both with our public purpose needs for the 501(c), but also for our kind of how do we reach into the public sector, public transportation areas, where these things are probably more important than the commercial relationships and benefits we might be able to build, right? So anyways, these are the working groups and committees and our status. Any questions? You got to have questions, no? Everybody's here, good, at least. So I must have been very thorough. This is fantastic. I think that was all my time. Was that all my time? I have 5 minutes left for questions. Boy, I could have spent more time on something else. I just want to say the social benefits thing for me is very exciting. Actually, when we were in Detroit at our meetup, I don't remember the gentleman's name from Ford. He brought up this, if you guys are looking into these things like intellectual property and legal, and you might want to start with your ethics, right? What are the ethics of mobility and bake that in from the very beginning. And that's really where this started. And we've had a lot of interest for potential new members to participate in MOBI if we take on that particular challenge. So that's one I'm very excited about personally. All right, any questions? I know you guys want to get to lunch, so. All right, so who's going to volunteer to be a chair? Gosh, nobody. I didn't get one hand out of that. All right, thank you guys. Hold on, who's next?